Hello, this is a video just to explain how to set up Voicemeeter Potato for doing online lessons. If you're a music teacher like I am and you need to put a lot of music sources together, different inputs, this is the way that you do it. So first thing you need to do is go to VB Audio's website, and you're going to need to download Voicemeeter Potato, which is this one here. You pick the exe file and install that one. And the other one we're going to need is virtual audio cable here, and download and install that one there. And after you've installed those, you're going to need to reboot your computer. So once that's up and running, you're going to come up with this when you run Voicemeeter Potato, and we now need to do some things to set this up. So the first thing we need to do is define Windows control panel. You can always find that by typing that in the search bar, but I've got mine saved here. And click large icons, and we're going to go down to sound. Click that one. Oops, we're done with that. There we go. And this shows us on Windows all of our different sound cards and devices on here. And if you installed it properly and rebooted, you should have some new ones down here. Cable input, voice meter input, and other things. Now the first thing you need to do is to set your default communications and devices on here. So that one's already set. Otherwise, if it's not set, you get this up here: sets default device, communications device. This one is already set as that. That's why it didn't come up on the menu there. And similarly on recording, I've chosen this one. Now you could choose any of these, but Voicemeeter VAO3 output is my default device. So again, right click one of these, and then you'll get this thing down here: set as default device, set as default communications device. Make sure that this is set on here. Now one annoying thing Windows does is whenever you connect a new audio device for the first time, it will change the defaults, which is really irritating. So just bear in mind, if you connect a new sound card or something and everything stops working, that's why. So you always look in here and just set this back so that these are the default things. Basically what this is doing is telling Windows by default to route all the audio through our software mixing panel, Voicemeeter Potato, rather than just through the Windows system. If that isn't set right, then you don't get any audio coming out of Voicemeeter Potato. So that's the first thing to do. You probably won't need to do anything else other than that. One of the things that I've found is quite helpful is I've got quite a few webcams for teaching, so I've disabled the audio from them because I'm not using it. So on the recording tab, anything I'm not using, here we go, webcam, I've just right clicked and disabled. It just means there's less chance of the computer mucking around with one of these when I don't want it to. So as I'm never going to use them, I've got rid of them by disabling them there. Actually, I'll just switch on my Boss Guitar now. That should pop up as well. There we go. So there's my guitar amplifier. Boss Guitana's shown up now, and I've got my chord keyboard B2 there, and these are the things I've got put in there, and somewhere my sound interface should be on there. There we go, Behringer UMC 404 HD. I've got 4 channels in, 4 out. Now one other thing I did with this, I'm using Manycam software to record this video. It doesn't seem to like things coming out other than at normal CD sample rate, which is 44 kilohertz and 16 bits. So I've set Voicemeeter Potato to do that, otherwise I was getting this garbled kind of audio. So one other little thing I've done on here is, where possible, I've tried to set all the other sound interfaces to the same sample rate and bit rate. Now that's not possible with all of them, and Voicemeeter Potato does cope with different sample rates and bit rates. However, if you're trying to get low latency out of your computer, it's obviously got to do more processing to do that, and as this is fairly time critical, it just takes a little bit of the overhead off to do that. So I just basically went through everything that I've got on here and then went to the advanced tab and set them all to the same thing. So 2 channel 16-bit 44.1 kilohertz CD quality, where I could. Now my core keyboard, if I can find it on here, doesn't do that. If I go to my advanced tab here, I've only got a chance to have either 48 kilohertz, 24 or 16-bit, so as I can't actually get the 16-bit 44, I haven't bothered. I've just gone for the highest quality on that one. That seems to work okay. So yeah, I've disabled my computer's sound card on there. I don't need it at the moment because I'm using the Behringer one. So that's basically one of the things you can do on there. Try and set them to the same kind of sample rate if you can. If you're using ManyCam to record, you'll need to use 44 kilohertz. Disable the ones you're not using, and do that on playback and recording. And if it all goes pear-shaped, just go back and check that Voicemeeter input and one of the Voicemeeter outputs are set as default, because as I said, Windows has a tendency to change them. Another thing you can do on here, on communications tab, set that to do nothing. It's just one less thing that Windows is fiddling around with Skype, so set that one while you're there as well. So that's how to set up that. Now on Voicemeeter Potato, first thing you need to do is to go up to A1 here, and you need to set that to your best audio driver. So if you're using an interface, as I am, this is my Behringer unit. If you've got a choice of different ones, choose the ASIO one because it will give you the lowest latency, and set that to your best lowest latency driver. So, and also you need to set it to the one that you've got your headphones plugged into or your speakers, otherwise you're not going to hear a lot. So I've got my headphones plugged into my Behringer unit, and I've selected the ASIO driver there, which is low latency, and that will control the timing of all the other devices. So that's what you need to do first. Set A1. You won't get any sound if you don't set that correctly, or you'll get garbled sound, so that needs to be done first. So in order of preference, if you've got an ASIO driver, that's great. If you haven't, go for the WDM or the KS one if that pops up for the interface you're using. As a last resort, use the MME one, but these are higher latency, so there's going to be more of a delay, which if you're a musician is not great, because it means when you play a note on your guitar you're going to hear it too much later to really be any use. Other things are here, you can set other outputs as well. So I've got what have I got on there? Katana. I don't need that on there actually, so I'm going to change that to speakers. So on here, I don't need anything else set, so they're not ticked. That's good. So I've got two outputs. One is going to my sound card. The other ones are going to my oh, I've got the wrong one there. Where is it? That's my monitor. So if I'm watching TV on my monitors and I want to use the monitor speaker, that'll now send that. But you can assign it to anything on there, basically. So just a quick word about what this has on here. The left hand side across these parts are your inputs, so they're your hardware inputs for the most part. And I've got my Boss Katana amp here. If you want to name this, you right click it, you can put the name in over the top, and when you click on it you get lots of different devices and drivers that come up here. I'm using KS here. You don't always get a KS driver, that's a kernel streaming driver. I'm not sure actually which is best for my Katana. I could use WDM or this one, but this seems to work quite well with low latency, so I've just chosen that one. the one again to avoid is the MME if you possibly can. That will give you high latency and it's not great for playing instruments. So either kernel streaming if you have a kernel streaming driver, or the WDM one if it's up there. So that's my Boss Katana input down there. In fact, I'll mute that at the moment because I think it's making a noise through there. I've got my microphone here, and my microphone is coming out of my Behringer unit. Now this was a little bit more tricky to sort out. On here I could do one of two things. I could use a WDM driver, just select that, and that's channels 1 to 2 outputs of my sound card. I've actually selected the ASIO driver there, and it's a little bit strange how you do this, but if I go into sound settings, where are we? System settings options. In here, if I want to use the ASIO driver for my microphone, I can set it down here. So I'm on the second hardware channel, so that's in2, and I've set that to output 1 of my Behringer unit. So remember, the Behringer unit is set as my A1 ASIO driver, so I put that in there, and that enables me to get my microphone up with an ASIO driver. I've got other things on here. I've set the sample rate to 44 kilohertz. I've left these alone. If you start mucking around with those, things can go wrong quickly. That's pretty much how I set that up. And the next one I've got is my keyboard on here. This is using a digital input from the Korg B2. Korg B2 keyboard fortunately has an audio out digitally, which is quite handy. And I've got that set there with the WDM driver. I've also got down here an MME driver, and again that would be higher latency, so I don't want that, so I've selected that for my Korg, named it up the top, and you can see I've added a bit of reverb and a bit of delay as well, because it benefits from that. It sounds a bit better, and Voicemeeter Potato comes with effects built in. You can do that. That was for a USB mic, which hasn't plugged in at the moment. And here's another little bit interesting thing here. I have got virtual cable output. Remember I said download the driver for the virtual cable, and I've got my virtual cable output here. Now this is what I'm going to use to get the audio from that's coming back from Skype from the pupils, and that's what comes in on this channel. So next thing I've got to do for each of these is tell it where to send the audio to. So I want to be able to hear my Katana through my headphones, so I've clicked A1, which is going to go to my headphone output. I haven't bothered clicking the mic because I don't like hearing the microphone through my headphones, and I have clicked the Korg one because I want to be able to hear my keyboard, and I want to be able to hear the Skype pupils, so that anything coming in on this channel I want going out to my headphones as well. So this is hardware inputs on this side, so that's fairly straightforward. This is a little bit more confusing. These are virtual inputs here, and these are the channels that by default other Windows programs would pop up. So if I put Winamp up, which is playing my MP3 files, you can see now Winamp has popped up a little slider on here. So this is quite handy because you can control the volume levels of different Windows programs you're using here. I clicked A1, I want to go to my headphones. Sometimes I want to go to my speaker output for my monitors, which I've selected there on A2. I haven't got anything on A3, so really I don't need A3 there. I can get rid of the A3s at the moment. And when I shut Winamp, you can see it disappears off there. So this kind of is a bit like Windows Mixer this side. It enables you to balance the audio. That's quite handy because if I'm playing my guitar along with an MP3 file, I can change the volume of the backing music there, and this effectively allows me to combine a whole bunch of different things, the microphone, the instruments and a backing track together, and then send all this lot into Skype or Zoom, which is really useful. So if we have a look at how you set Skype up, if I can just get that up on here, and we go into Skype settings, and then we go to audio and video. I've got Manycam as my virtual webcam, and down here on microphone I've got a couple of things here. I've put my microphone, this is basically what is coming into Skype, as virtual output 3 bus, and to do that, to get everything to go into Skype, if we have a look at Voicemeeter again, B3 is virtual output 3, so I'm sending my Boss Katana to virtual output 3. I'm sending my microphone, my keyboard to virtual output 3, and I'm not sending this one because this is going to be what's coming back from Skype. So obviously I'd create a feedback loop if I clicked on that one, which I don't want. So I am sending, however, anything that's coming up on here, or any of the other ones, although they probably won't get used, I am sending these to B3, and B3 output is on, it's not very clear on here, but it's this strip here, and it's this strip which is the one that's sending the information into Skype. And I've clicked mono because Skype only picks the left hand channel of the two, so I want to sum them together. If I'm playing any Beatles covers to my pupils, of course, with the weird way that the Beatles did their mixing, you only get half the instruments in one channel and half in the other, so you need to click the mono if you're doing that, and that's sending that to Skype. So going through that again, got my hardware inputs there, I've got my virtual inputs and window program here. They're going to my headphones with A1, but they're also going to B3, which is called VAIO3 output, and this is the master bus to send it to Skype. So within Skype I've got Voicemeeter 3 output, and that's as my microphone. So instead of just taking my microphone signal, it's now taking everything I've sent into that output bus. So that's my Boss Katana guitar amp, my microphone, my keyboard, anything that I'm playing audio out of, like a web browser or an MP3 player, they are all going now into the microphone input on here. I've taken off automatically adjust microphone settings, turned that up. New feature on Skype, noise cancellation, I've just turned that off because that just does weird stuff which I don't want. And the speakers are where Skype needs to send its audio back to. Now you can actually just leave that at default, but I've actually found it sounds better if I get it away from its default and use the virtual cable. So I'm using cable, VB audio, virtual cable, and where that's going to go is into this input here. So when I listen to pupils on Skype, this is where this goes. It goes back into this one, and we've got a few options up here. One of the things you can do with this is you can do 3D positioning. So of course Skype's mono, annoyingly, so you can turn it into a kind of stereo, which is quite nice. You can move this around for the 3D position, just move this blob on here, and it makes it sound more realistic through the headphones, which is quite handy. Another thing you can do on here is by moving this around, you can change the frequency, so you can either boost the mid-range or the high or cut the low just by moving this around on here. This is quite handy if you're teaching and somebody has a very loud hum going on, their washing machine in the background or some other noise. You can move this around and get rid of a lot of it, which is quite handy. So if you're struggling to hear somebody on Skype, it can be quite useful to do that. So that's basically how you set it up within Skype and with this. There's a whole bunch of other options on here, and it does get quite complicated. There is an instruction manual for it, and you can download that. There are lots of other things you've got on here. You've got noise gates that can be quite handy on the microphone. That basically cuts off low level sound until you speak. There's also a compressor option on here which you can turn up, which will level out your volume on your microphone if you need to do that. And you can also add effects as well. If you do that, it's a little bit more complicated. You can add reverb or delay, which I've done on my chord keyboard. You need to turn those on here, so they're on. And you also need to send it to the reverb and delay unit with that slider, and you need to get it sent into the bus as well over here. So that's kind of more complicated operation of it, but it does work pretty well. It'll work with Zoom as well. You do the same thing with Zoom. You select virtual cable as your output from Zoom, and as your microphone you select VAO3, which again is our bus down here. It's the name of the bus there. So just to summarize, set up your audio output here to what you've got your headphones plugged into, and choose the ASIO driver if you've got one for your sound interface. If you haven't, choose a WDM. If that isn't set, nothing will work. If you've got any other outputs, speakers, headphones or whatever, other things, monitors, you can set those here. Set the driver. The whole of the left hand side here, this bit is hardware inputs going in. This is virtual inputs for software coming in. And this is the mixing section for going out here. So this gives you your volume levels and other things you can do. I see this one is A2. Now I didn't see this for ages. It's not very good from the developers really. It does say the names of them, but they're not very clear. They're down there and they're quite small, so it's easy to miss that. So this controls the volume level going to your headphones. This controls what I've currently got speaker as my monitor speakers, but I've muted them. I've also done some EQ because they don't replicate bass very well, so I can fiddle around with that. These aren't used at the moment, and these are the virtual outputs going to the software and other things. So it's a very powerful piece of kit. It's probably the easiest way of getting multiple audio sources in Skype or OBS or other software like that, or Zoom. It is tricky to set up, but when you have got it set up, it enables you to hear all these different things. Now if you're using a DAW with this and you want to record lots of different sources in your DAW, you can also do that. To do that, you pick a bus that you haven't selected as a default. In this case I'm not using Voicemeeter aux, which is B2 on here, so I'm sending all my hardware inputs to B2 along there, and on the B2 bus here you click this until it says composite, and then you go into your menu and we go to system settings again, and patch composite here. You set all these to match these hardware inputs across the top. So I've got number 1 left and right, which is this one here. I've got number 2 left and right, which is this one, my mic, and so on across left right, and so on for all 4 hardware channels. And in my digital audio program I select virtual ASIO driver 128 for input and output, and then if I select on Reaper's or my DAW's input stereo 1 left and 1 right, I will get what's on that channel, which is my Boss Katana amp. So you can kind of split them up, and that's quite handy because the Boss Katana ASIO driver, rather annoyingly, by default routes all the audio straight into the Boss Katana, and you can't hear it through the headphones, which is a pain. Whereas using this solution for your DAW, you can actually not have to have that pain to work around. So that's how you can kind of set it up to do that. And as you can see, I've got B2 set up on here for all of these, which is sending it to that. I've got nothing coming in on that one, but it all goes out from B2 here. That's set to composite, and then I've told it in the settings that I want these hardware channels to be the 8 composite outs. So that gives me 8 channels out into my DAW if I want to record some music. So hopefully that explains how you set it up. if something goes wrong or I switch on my bus katana, I have to go up here, click restart audio engine. It doesn't seem to pick up when I switch it on, so I have to do that. It's not a bad idea to click auto restart audio engine on A1 device just in case something goes wrong, and click system tray. I should also have run on Windows startup clicked there, and that's about all I set up on that one. Under the system settings, there's not normally much you need to do there. I've got my preferred sample rate 44 Hertz. I've tried to put everything to that wherever possible. Leave that to no, that can cause problems if you put that on yes. That's about it really. So yeah, good piece of software. It doesn't cost that much to its donationware. It's not a very reasonable sort of price to pay for, well worth it. And you just get a single license for a single PC. But a good piece of software and a good way of controlling your audio if you're doing any lessons online or if you're doing any kind of streaming or broadcasting. It's a good piece of software to use. It is a little bit confusing though, so remember hardware inputs, software inputs, and these are all the outputs. So these are the hardware outputs, these are the software outputs down here, and this is where you control where you send each of these buses down here. So as I said, make sure you set A1 right or you won't get any sound. Okay, hopefully that makes a bit of sense. It took me a while to figure it out, so I'm partly doing this for my own use just in case I forget how I set it up. But of course you can save all your settings on here, which is useful, and get them back if you mess it up. Okay.